Good morning, everyone. It is November 17th, 2025. It's Monday. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, if you are enjoying this content, please click like and subscribe or drop us a line below. That would be very helpful for us. So now that I've got that out of the way, we've got a lot to go over. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to record any videos. I've been very busy lately, especially on Friday, and that was a lot of action that happened. So let's jump in and really digest what these charts are saying. First of all, last we left off, I believe Bitcoin was over in this section. We were talking about a news play that happened and how the news play kind of played out on all of these charts. I don't remember. I don't know what the news was. It just was a pattern that I saw. So I captured that and then I moved on with the rest of my day, right? And I watched the charts, and yeah, wow, we've taken quite a drop here, right? This is a pretty hefty drop. Now, I did have a plan, and my plan is that if we were to get up here, if we were to get up over here, then I would be looking for this to have some kind of reaction. I would take some more, take profit over here, or possibly even take a short. But my other plan was that if we did break any lower, I would be looking to DCA in this area right here, which I did. I ended up DCAing in, and it shifted my entry point from here down to here, which is a pretty solid position, I feel, as being at the bottom of this target. Now, let's go over exactly what's going on, right? Because, excuse me, because we look like we're kind of dangling way below where we were before, and it feels like we are just kind of like hovering in nowhere. Like there's a lot of space that's here. So what's the deal, and where might we be heading, right? So first of all, this right now I am currently underwater, right? This is my margin of error. Okay, so basically what I'm looking at here is this is my risk factor, right? And I would be stopped out over here if we got any lower. But I felt this was a good chance for a swing on this part, especially the fact that we've got 1, 2, 3 drops, and usually the chart speaks in threes, right? The other thing is we've taken a significant drop between each one of these right here, and this is a pretty solid downtrend at this point. So let's take a look and see what the chart is actually saying. First of all, I'm going to add another money to right over here. This area was a sharp drop down, so this has liquidity that is building up around here as well. Second, I'm going to take this trend line and I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm going to move it over here so that we've got some touching points right about there. So look what we're in. It looks like we're in a channel. Notice that we've got a block here, and notice that the candle kind of looks like this right there. Now we've got an overshoot, but it looks like we've built some support right here, and then we've got a bounce right here. Look, we scraped it, and it looks like we're still kind of riding this line. So this line is just as relevant as the line above for resistance. This is our channel that we're in. Now, notice that there's a little bit of extra fluff here, right? So if I were to take this and just kind of like move this over like so, we can call this kind of like our margin of error right here in the trend line. So it could dip down into there and stay in the channel, kind of pop out, because it did before. So I'm going to leave this off for now. Let's look at some other things. First of all, where are we? Like really, where are we? Like, not besides this, if we didn't put this on there, like why are we having some kind of reaction right here? Why did it stop over here? Well, the truth is that we have to look to the left to see exactly what's going on. And here we go. This was the previous top of the range. So let's draw it out and see exactly what's happening. So I'm going to take this. This was our resistance from before, and I'm going to pull it out just like so. And there we go. We are in this mud, right? Not only that, it looks like we've touched the bottom, and it looks like we've overshot the bottom a little bit as well, right? So if we're talking about like wicks and everything, then if we look a little bit closer, you'll see that we are now filling out. We filled out this wick over here. This wick is completely done on this side, right? And then over here at the very bottom, we had a wick, and it looks like we're filling that out on this side right now. But everything looks like it's slowing down. So let's take a look at what happens over in the zone. So yeah, so we had a couple bounces right over here. Looks like we've got a wick right over here. It's underneath, but this was the spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this line out, because that's where we are right now. So let me pull this out and pull this back, and I'll pull this line because this line seems to be a little bit more accurate to where we are. Right? There we go. So looks like we are starting to build something here. And what I'm hoping for is I'm hoping that we start to have some kind of reaction, come back over here and grab onto this line right over here. If we can do that, then we can definitely come and touch this zone right here. Try to test the top of this channel. Okay, so Now, we've got this really, really big drop here. This is a very big drop. I believe it's about a 15-16% drop. So what happens is at this time, we now have a structure that needs to break. There are two structures here that needs to break. This one right here. In order for us to move up, we have to break this line, this yellow line that we have on the chart. Right? And we need to grab some support here. But the next thing we need to do is we need to come over here. This is really our area that we need to break. We need to break these two candles. And again, it becomes a break of structure, right? And working our way back up. So we need to come back over here. So these are the two areas, the two zones that we should be looking at for a possible reaction or some kind of support. Now, there's one other thing that I want to show you that we mentioned in our previous video. If I go over to the day chart here, I mentioned before that we've got this trend line. And I've left it on there for quite some time, but I never really talked about it until recently. Let me make it a lot brighter because this is also very interesting. So here we actually broke this trend line not for the first time. We broke this trend line right here, okay? Now, if you look at the trend line, which has been going on for quite some time, let me go and pull this out. There's some fluff here. See this candle, that candle? There's a little bit of a poking edge. In fact, let me move that down. So we are flush here. I move this down. So we are flush here, and we are touching right there. We touch right here. This is kind of like a gimme, right? So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to duplicate this line, and I'm going to pull it where that wick is. Right there. Look at this. This is where we are. We are right in this margin of error. I'm calling it that because if you were shooting for this to touch on this line, it overshot, and this is really kind of where it's going to be. And if it breaks any lower than that, then I feel we are in a whole different zone. So this is really the area of where we need to pay attention right here, because now we've got these trend lines that are all touching, and we've got all of these things pointing to this zone. This is pointing. This is pointing, this is pointing, this is pointing. Everything's pointing to the zone for support. This has to be some kind of support. If it does break lower, then yeah, we have to look at the range on the left side to figure out exactly where we're going to go. And usually where we go in that point is around a 50%, the 50% line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a dotted line here. And I'm going to take this line here and I'm going to knock it down, you know, the colors a bit. So now we have a little bit of a sense of, I'm going to knock this down too. We've got a sense of kind of where we're at. So all of these things are pointing to the same exact area. These candles here, this here, especially the fact that we're below this target, this over here and that over there, right? So this is our critical zone. If we go any lower than this, then I would be looking right here, this 50% line for a bounce. This 50% line is right around here, and then we have to figure out what our story is going to be at this point. So while we are in this zone, I've noticed a few things. Let me knock this down a bit. I've noticed a few things. First of all, when we made this chart, one of the things that I was saying was is that this actually could be a bigger range. And if it were to come down and break this, we are in a bigger range. We would have to look at this zone right over here for like a really solid entry. But of course, before it hits that, it does have to hit this 50% line, which we would probably have some kind of reaction. I don't feel like that's going to happen right now. Honestly, we've taken such a drop that I feel that we are going to work our way back up. So that's what I'm betting on. And I'll tell you the truth. This area is this is a battle. This becomes a battle. While I did work my plan out and I came down here and I DCA'd in, and I DCA'd in pretty heavy over here to move my entry down here, using this as my margin of error, my risk area, and this being my stop out. Notice that I'm underneath everything else, you know, this kind of this zone from here to here, like I'm way under. I'm not going to lie, this is a sweating area, okay? Because if we break this zone, then we have to wait. We just got to wait for the chart to tell us a little bit more of what it's doing. This is when, you know, pencils down, kind of chill. But I do feel like, you know, when like I said before, when we're at the top here, people think that we're going to the moon, right? And when we're at the bottom, everyone thinks that we're going to zero. And this is the point when the market makers really, like, screw everyone. Because while you're feeling your worst right here, and fear is grabbing you, while fear is grabbing you right here, yeah, there's no emotion for them. It's, let's move it up. Who cares who lost money? Who cares who got faked out? Who cares who got concrete on their feet? That's just how it's going to play, right? So my idea is that this is our new playing field. right here, this area right here, this whole drop, because this money that we put here, I believe needs to be picked up. If not, we are really, really struggling here for all of the drops that we've taken. So to be realistic, I would think that we would at least come to this area. I don't know why I just did that. We would find the middle, probably right around here. Notice that there's these wicks here. If we can get right above here and then find some support, then this is how I see the range. This is the short zone right here, short zone. This is the long zone right over here. So that's what I'm looking for. In the meantime, we're going to adjust this chart a little bit because now that we have a lot more information, I do feel like we are dealing with a bigger range. No, I just want to move this down now. Okay, I'm going to take this from here and I'm going to move it down right over here. I will get rid of this target. Finally, we're done with that. And I'm going to shift this out. First of all, let me make this, let's knock that down. Let's get rid of the words. Let's take this. This is the top. This has to be the top right there because that's where we are. And now I'm going to adjust this. The chart has formed out a little bit more. So let's adjust these lines a bit. Let's go right here. This is the 50%. This is the golden pocket. And where's the other golden pocket? Did I lose the other golden pocket? Oh, no, it's right here. So I'll take this. Let's reverse this. Like so. Take this. Let's move it down. Okay. So this is what we've got. I'm going to take this. Let me get rid of this right there. Okay. So this is what we got. Yeah. This is feeling a little bit okay. I'm going to include this area because we've got this top here. So this is the top of, this is the very top of the previous range. We are now touching the top of the previous range. So this is the middle here. This is the top, middle. Okay, that's making sense. So yeah, so if we can come over here and grab over here, then we can kind of work our way up. And notice where the, notice where this money is now that I'm saying we need to grab this right over here. This is a golden pocket right here. Ah, that's the golden pocket. Let's pull this over. It also needs to be the break of structure. That's the break of structure line for the bigger part. Okay, cool. Yeah, this looks good to me. So why did I move my chart right now? Why did I move it from the previous range? Because we've got a lot more information now. And again, one of the things that I said was we are in this area here where this is the all-time high for Bitcoin. It's actually creating a story, and we need to respect the fact that the story changes over time. And we can't just like concrete ourselves. We have to be seeing the bigger picture for what it's doing. So if we get into this range, yeah, this is really a good area to long if we're going to head over to the top of the range. If we don't get any strength over here, for example, if we come over here, tap this, and then we lose it, yeah, I'm going to cut this whole thing. I'm cutting this whole trade out, and I'm going to sit on my hands until we get over to this zone right over here. Which is the previous range low, or possibly, you know, the 50% line. That's when I start watching the charts completely. So far, I do feel like we are in a good place for a bounce, especially a relief bounce. So, right? So now let's go take a look at what's going on with Ethereum. I'm sorry it's taking so long on this chart, but let's jump over to here. So Ethereum, I played out as well. And I do feel that this chart, I did say before that I wasn't sure what to do with this area underneath when I was cleaning up the chart on the weekend, because this might be the bigger range, and I believe it is. Now it's formed out, and we are actually grabbing some strength here. We hit a wick, and now we are actually having some kind of reaction right over here. This is now the bottom of the big range that we have going on. So I also took a long in the section. Now I was in a long before, and what I did was I DCA'd in, which moved my line over here. I have since taken profit. I've taken profit over here, so I'm really tapping this area as much as I possibly can. I am now currently underwater from what this is happening here, but if we get any lower, if we get below here, then, you know, I'll call it quits. And then I would be looking at this area right over here for a possible heavy long. You can see this pattern running out, though. You can see we've got like this pattern that's happening. And why I feel like we aren't going lower just yet is because this is such a hardcore drop. Usually there is a little bit of relief. So what I'm looking for is an opportunity for the relief, or an opportunity for it to say, hey, you know, I was just faking you guys out. Now, one thing that I am going to say is this, and I really want to put this in perspective for everyone. These ranges and the amount of money that are in the charts, I mean, like for up here, like we've got this range over here, and then we've got this range over here. The difference between the two ranges is you're going to hear a lot of people say that this is the bear market right over here, and you are going to hear everyone say that we are still in the bull market in this range. Let me draw that in here. The bull market in this range, right? So this is the bull market, and that's the bear market. To me, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter, because what's the difference between this range and this range? What's the difference? What's the difference between those ranges? So we start a range down here. It's rinse and repeat all over again. The only difference is that you're going to have to wait for it to come down over here, and then, or, you know, we need to set up a plan. We need to wait for a plan to start setting up. These areas here are areas where we make money. Now, if you are thinking, oh, but I want it to go up to 150,000, in due time it will. Who knows? Today, tomorrow, next month, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, eventually it will. Somehow, some way, we are going to get up there. But it doesn't mean that you just put concrete on your feet and you're like, hey, well, I can't trade because I'm only looking for a certain amount of gain. If I come back over to Ethereum and you've been following everything that I've been doing as far as my entries and my DCAs and my take profits, we didn't have to go very far. I have now made about, I believe, 60% gain just in this section alone. That's a small range. That's a small area to play. It was actually this right over here. Sorry, I didn't include that. It was this right here. Now, it going higher and running higher like that, then it's going to be, you know, more of a waiting game. So, hold on. Sorry, I had something to do. So this would be more of a waiting game. If we got over here now, look, I'm just gonna say one more thing on this. Understand this. If we are running up here and all you're doing is taking one take profit, then yeah, you're going to be waiting for some time and you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And because I've run this range so much, I've taken about, I think, a total of 10 take profits in the zone, which led me to my gain just in this zone alone. So I appreciate the range. I appreciate, you know, the support and resistance. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for these numbers. I don't really care where we are in the chart. You know, you can be holding forever, and that's fine if that's your style. But, you know, my style is to really work these charts in my favor or take advantage of an opportunity if I see one to make some gains or possibly even understand what's going to happen. Anyway, let's see what's going to happen. It's about 9:10. There's 20 minutes left until the market opens up. Let's go take a look over at the S&P 500, the one that is closed. That's been running. So this ran through the night through Sunday. So this is where we are right now. I believe we're going to open with a gap to the upside here. I think so. That's possible. And if so, then we possibly come back up here. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the S&P 500 to come back here. And hopefully what that'll do is that'll push everything back up and give us that relief that hopefully, you know, we can get. All right, everybody, be safe. Hope all is well. So far, the plans are working out and we are in the battle zone. So, all right, thanks.